Welcome to episode 12, Check the Wire podcast. Myself, DanGheesling, Ryan Gary, aka Northernlion the Turner. What's going on, Ryan?
Not too much. Happy to be here. Originally, I thought it was going to be tight scheduling because we had a doctor's appointment this afternoon. Then before bed, we checked on it, and actually the doctor's appointment was in the morning.
Oh.
So here we are.
All right, did you get a fruit update for people that are into
No, I'm not even allowed because of the corona stuff. I'm not even allowed to go into the office. So I just sat outside on a bench, and then Kate came out and was like, everything's good.
That's good news. But you know, I'm talking about the fruit, right? Like every couple weeks, it's
how
like,
big is it?
Yeah.
Last time, I think we were at like the size of a donut last week.
Okay.
So every Saturday we update. So I don't know. We're kind of like we're getting pretty close to it being I don't know, like a pineapple. How big is an infant when it's ready?
There's a lot of factors that play into that, but when we get a little closer, I'm excited to share with you some graphic details. But from graphic details to what's been going on the past week, you hit me up, well ahead of time. You're like, hey, I got this idea for a segment of the show. Well, why don't you reveal the segment of the show?
Yeah, so I thought it would be interesting. I'm always like the context for this is we talked a lot of, especially on the earlier episodes, we talked a lot of like mindset stuff, lifestyle stuff, attitude and stuff like that. And I think that stuff's great, but I also think having some kind of like recurring segment, like a frame that we can kind of like fill in like some strategic or tactical advice or like a case study of stuff that's going on in our life is useful. So I thought, what if we had like a win of the week for each of us and a loss for the week for each of us? So the win would be like something, maybe we tried something new and it went well, or we learned something, or people were really interested in it. And then the loss of the week is like something didn't go maybe according to plan, and here's what we can learn from it. And it sucks, but we can use that as actionable, teachable moments for both the two of us and everybody else as well.
I think WRL, that sounds like an interesting segment. Why don't you start out with your L of the week that you learned from?
Oh, yeah, it's insanely easy. On Tuesday, my L of the week was technical issues.
Okay.
That were like well within my grasp to have fixed. Maybe let's say like in January or February, but I went, it's not urgent. And then just constantly inundated with tech support problems for both Valorant and Warzone, taking a lot of troubleshooting to get at least Warzone fixed, and then also having it run kind of like doo-doo over the course of that stream. It's like it got me tilted, and then the rest of the Tuesday stream was a little compromised as a result. So really, like, I use that as, like, I don't get angry very often. I get annoyed constantly. But actual anger is pretty rare. So when I finished that stream, I was like, I'm going to go out and buy a friggin' new computer. And I spent like 2 hours researching, and I talked to a friend of the channel, Rumble Muffin, who was like, gave me basically, he's just like, buy this. So I bought a new computer. That's the L turned into a W. I just hate tech support issues. But at the same time, I recognize I'm mostly mad at myself. I'm mad at myself because I really should have fixed it at the first inclination of a problem, which even probably could have been done like a year ago or close to a year ago.
What was the first inclination of a problem too?
Well, it's just like really like PUBG has kind of been the harbinger for like the fact that game. I would say like the watershed moment, like the moment where I should have taken time and been like, let's fix this right now, is when I played PUBG with Malf and Justin one Thursday, like 2 or 3 months ago. And the game looked so bad and ran so bad that when I was running, I didn't have enough like RAM for Discord to even send messages clearly. So everyone was coming through like a robot the whole time. So like definitely should have done it there. But the lesson to learn is if you don't want to deal with technical issues, don't wait until they get bad. Try to deal with them before they become truly urgent, and it'll make your life easier a few months later, even if it feels like a waste of time at the time.
And for context, I know you mentioned, I think on the back channels, maybe you spent 4 hours messing with Valorant. So there's 4 hours down the pipe, and then plus whatever you did on Warzone, right?
Don't even get me started with the fact that once I got Warzone fixed, the next day they released a patch that was like, hey, we fixed the issues that we had on this particular video card. I was like, okay. And then Valorant now works for me. They work, like Valorant patched itself last night and it works better than I could have asked for. Now the anti-cheat actually triggers and it gives you a pop-up that's like, this thing has been blocked from running so that you can play Valorant. So I was able to go into my computer and be like, oh, that's the thing that was causing the problem the whole time. So honestly, that literally like the day after I bought the PC, both of the major impetuses for me to buy it in the first place have been fixed, but it's still good to have it. So I'm happy. In the end, the L did get turned into a W for sure. But it was frustrating on Tuesday for sure.
Before I share my W of the week, because I know inquiring minds are going to want to know, can you share some details or specs on the computer you bought?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think what most people care about is the just the CPU and the GPU.
Yeah.
And then the GPU is 2080 Ti with 11 gigabytes of onboard VRAM. And then the CPU, I think it's I was talking with Rumble about it. I think it's the AMD 3950X.
Okay.
Which is not like absolute top of the line, but apparently he was telling me like the Threadrippers are, which is a different SKU, are like sick, but also they don't work as well for streaming. They're more like the gaming performance is great. And for like video editing and stuff is great, but for like concurrent streaming and gaming, then like the 3950 is a little better. So
I have two quick questions for you, and then I'll share my W of the week. Okay, Number one, why didn't you consult me for technical advice? And number two, do you have a propensity to go AMD over Intel, or just it's the way the cookie crumbled?
I probably previously in the past, I've been like an Intel NVIDIA sort of guy. But honestly, like I just default to Rumble's wisdom. So okay. Rumble said to me, like, this is probably what you're going to want. And I said, that's fine. So.
Okay. And I have a bunch more follow-up questions on that, but let me share my W of the week. Last week, I think we talked about YouTube Premiere.
Yeah.
So this morning, I didn't tell you this yet, but I have a Spelunky series going. I'm trying to get to the City of Gold, and I'm like, all right, last time I put the premiere up like a day before people were like, hey, I don't like this, I can't watch it. New tech I learned. You can schedule a video normally like you and I do it. You upload it, and then you can change it to a premiere whenever you want. I don't know if that's always been like that.
So you can have it in the back end, and then like 10 minutes before you get switched.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I did. And people weren't like, there was no, people were like, oh, I can't watch this, because I'm in there in the chat, I think at 7:50 a.m. And it went, I would say, exponentially better in terms of people being pogged up, but also even just number of people there, because I think people came there because they expected the video to go live at 8 anyways, and then they were surprised that it was a premiere as opposed to, oh, hey, I can't watch this for 12 hours. So that's like new tech that I did today. And I'm like, man, how can I, and it was a special video, but how can I find a way to do this more often, or maybe once a week? Because I really, just to kind of double back on what we said last time, I had a chance to interact with more people that I normally don't get to talk to one-on-one, concurrently. So that was really good. And the other thing is, I don't really have an explanation for it, but just stuff on, and it's one of my topics we'll talk about, but stuff on Twitch is it's just like end of 2019 with like the Tarkov drops, there was a huge bump, and then now it just happened again, and I don't have a reason why. So I don't know. So that was two huge W's on my end, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly.
So what was because I was watching just before the podcast, obviously, because you saw me insulting you in chat. But what was like your Demon Souls viewership was at like maybe 1,200, 1,300, which obviously is super good.
Yeah.
But like I didn't see the Tarkov portion this morning. Usually when I see it's around like 700, 800.
Yeah.
What has it been at lately?
I feel like it's been there or a little bit higher. It's like we're always flirting with 4 digits. And then typically what happens is when I switch to another game, then it'll like dip a little bit. But Demon Souls, I think maybe it's got a lot to do with Demon Souls, because I don't know how many people have streamed Demon Souls in, 60 FPS on the PC, but I think it's another one of those special games that people see it and they want to watch it because it's just such a unique thing. So I think maybe that's part of it. But like even from like a support standpoint, Monday it was just crazy, and then the same thing happened again today, and I don't have an answer as to why, because both times it happened during Tarkov, so I don't know. But it's just, you know, the two really big W's that have been enjoyable, and it's kind of like it's a topic we'll talk about later, but and then we'll pivot to your W of the week. But I always said my hand is going to have to be forced to go full time, just I'm a little risk averse, and it has to get to the point where I'm like, man, it doesn't make sense to not go full time, and we're getting pretty close to that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's been good. But what was your W of the week?
Well, I just wanted to say as well, I think Demon Souls is almost like it's a unicorn, because it's the oldest Souls, but it's also almost like a new Souls, because I feel like everybody's seen Dark Souls. Most people have seen Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 2, but like such a small fraction of people have actually seen Demon Souls that it's almost like a brand new game in like a franchise that people love. So I think it's a super good choice for what to play. So for sure, like I've been watching and I've been like, oh, I didn't. It's so interesting to see like the origin point of things that I have seen throughout the series before, and like sound effects that they've reused for a decade at this point. Not that I'm hating on it. I'm more like, well, they've really gotten a lot of value out of like the crystal lizard sound. But
my big question from the Demon Soul stuff is that someone gets credit for giving Miyazaki the green light, right? Because here's this wildly different idea, and it just like, I just want to know, and I asked chat that, and they're like, Sony did, but yeah, someone had to say like, look, here's this guy who's got a vision. Here's something no one's ever really seen before, and it's just because it just plays so well, even with the emulated kind of upgrades. It just plays mechanically really well, and it's just solid throughout. So I don't know. To me, it's always like, yeah, Miyazaki's the creator and had this vision, but someone had to take a chance on him. And to me, that's, you know, I'm interested in going deeper on that story. But anyway, so what was your big W of the week?
I'm gonna cheat, even though it's week 1, and I think I got two that are related because they're both on YouTube. So the one that we were talking about in the back channel is I reworked how I ask people to like the video, if they actually like the video. And we were talking, I think last week, like I had said like I've numbered goals, but it still felt a little forced, like a little salesman-y when I was like, can we get 2,300 likes on this episode or whatever?
What did you say that felt salesy on your first iteration of asking for likes?
Well, it was just like there was like no let me put it this way. It was just artificial in the sense that there was like no incentive to do it and no consequence if you didn't do it. So literally I was just picking like a number that I would like to see out of thin air and being like, do it. So instead, what I find, and this is like a naturally iterative process, I think, like nobody's perfect at it the first time. You just try stuff on and you see what fits. In like a Mario Maker episode last week, I talked about like, well, the reason like I want to incentivize people to like videos more is because on the algorithmic side of YouTube, from what you can tell, you know, from looking at the algorithm from the outside, is that when more people like the video, or a higher proportion of people that watch that watch the video like it, because, you know, like if my video gets 20,000 views, it's never going to get as many likes as a video that gets 20 million, just due to the law of large numbers. So there's some kind of like percentage based factor in there. But if a higher proportion of people like the video, it sends a message to YouTube that's like, hey, people like this, show this to more people on their homepage, on their subscription tab, in the recommended videos sidebar, and stuff like that. So after you know, talking that over for like, you know, 3 or 4 minutes, that one video has like 4,000 likes or something, whereas the average Mario Maker video probably got like 13 to 1,500. So I was like, oh, this is like, I should have known in advance, but I was like, this is what my audience responds to, is like not being gamified, and instead just being like, honestly, here's the reason why, you know, I want you to click it. So now I just added like a little spiel to the end of every episode that's like, hey, you know, if you watch the episode up to the point where you're hearing me say this, I'm going to assume that you enjoyed the episode. If you did, the best way to support is to click. It sends click the like button. It sends a message to me that's like, you like this content, so I'll make more of it. And it also sends a message to YouTube that is like, hey, this guy makes good content. Show it to more people so that he can grow. Is the single best way to support the channel. So if you enjoyed it, please click the like button. And like the numbers are up, like markedly up just from saying that. So that's like a big win.
Did you
Not
notice?
just in
Did you
go ahead.
notice like more views, a little more views on a typical video because of
It's
the
hard
likes?
to tell,
Mhm.
like, because like there's so many confounding factors because of the fact that like a video with more views is going to get more likes probably as well. So I haven't really, but it's still early, and I haven't really. I look at the analytics usually in like a more broad sense. I look like month to month or like 2 weeks to 2 weeks. So I won't be able to tell for a little bit. Um, so it might all be for naught, but it still makes me feel good to see the number go up for sure. Um, so that was and the one of the reasons I like it is obviously the numbers go up. The other reason is that it's like I like that it's a tactic that I can now work in for every video. So I see it kind of like the end screen stuff that we talked about. The end screens like barely move the needle number wise, like less than 1% of people click on them. But 1% of 10,000 becomes a number that's larger than 10,000. And then 1% of that number becomes even larger. And, over time, you're building something out of it. So even if it doesn't have a huge analytical effect right off the bat, I feel like it gains steam over time.
So for you, the only thing you changed was your ask at the end, or do you like do middle, beginning, and end asking for a like, or how have you changed what you've done besides the vernacular, or is that the change?
I'm not going to say that I would never do it at the beginning or the middle of an episode, but it feels weird to me to do it, to have like a moment in an episode where I'm like, this is, hey, if you're enjoying it, click the like button. I think I actually like, you were talking about it. I like what you do where there is a, like a non-obtrusive little like banner that might pop up that's like, hey, if you're enjoying this, click the like button. Because I think that's okay as long as it's not something that pops up like every 45 seconds or something like that. And I would rather have it compromise like a 50 by 100 pixel spot at the bottom of the screen rather than take over the audio commentary for a minute and a half, for sure. So I do like that. I don't know, I feel like an ask at the start or the mid is kind of unnatural for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still probably not gonna do that, but I can't deny the numbers are better. Like in the Mario video where I talked about it at the beginning, well, within the first 10 minutes, the numbers were like through the roof. So I was like, I see why people like start a video. Like when I did the PUBG optimization, the first 2 minutes of the video was the guy being like, here's what I'm going to show you. By the way, click the like button right now if you're here watching because you want to fix this problem. And the video had like, I don't know, like 28,000 likes or something like that. So
for you, what feels off about asking for it in the beginning?
I guess, and we've talked about stuff that's similar to this in the past on this show, but I see it almost as like you're putting the pitch before you're actually giving them what they would want to support the pitch for. Like instead of asking them like, there's a good metaphor in here somewhere. Like if you're an author, you're asking them to like buy your book before you've actually given them like a text excerpt or something like that. You're kind of being like, hey, if you like me, support me, but you don't even know if you like the video because it's only like 10% of the way through. So I just feel like it's too gamified for me. And I think for the style of content that we have, I mean, there's a lot of things that we could do to I don't want to say artificially, but to inflate our numbers in a way that is like legal, but maybe like we don't feel great about it. Like you could always clickbait the titles and the thumbnails more. You could basically lie in the title as long as it's even tangentially related. You could play a game with a male protagonist, but at one point there's an NPC who is like a buxom lady. You could put her in every thumbnail and you'll attract a certain audience that's more likely to click. So I think for me, the level of comfort versus like the analytical support is where I got to find the line. And I think what I've realized is like having a harder ask after you've given everything is the way that it works for me right now. But whenever I can naturally slip in, like, by the way, if you've enjoyed this the first 28 minutes of this episode, click the like button before you forget. That also helps.
I think you're influencing me to probably gamify it a little less, but I'm gonna throw a metaphor your way. So say you're a huge fan of Stephen King and you've read all his books, and just for all of a sudden he's changing stuff up. He's like, hey, I want to write this new book and the publishers won't back me. Here's the title of it. Here's, and like the guy already. He doesn't need to convince you you're not a new reader. that's kind of how I look at, like, there's people that want to do that. And then it was interesting today because during the YouTube premiere thing, I was asking, hey, what do you think about how we're handling the asking for likes? And there's a bunch of people that said, hey, sometimes I just forget, so it's a good reminder. But what about you? Like, and I don't want to say cashing in on goodwill, because we're talking about like the literal, and I don't want to downplay it, but you're talking about movement of ligaments. It's not, you're not asking for money. But what about the goodwill you've built up over 8 years? Is that, and you're like, it still doesn't feel right to me.
I think that asking early in an episode, for me, compromises the quality of the episode.
Yeah.
And where like my like North Star is pointed is like, if you make good content and then play the system a little bit, at least like as much as you're comfortable playing it, then long term that'll work out better for you than like selling out the quality of your content to try to get like a little turbo temporarily. that might, burn it probably doesn't burn up much goodwill, but I think it burns up enough goodwill that it might like make your burn rate worse.
Yeah.
I mean, even just asking a harder ask at the end, some people are like, I don't like it. So like you're inevitably, however you're going to do it, you're going to alienate like a small percentage of people or maybe a big percentage of people depending on how you do it. But I think like the cost at the end is totally fine. But yeah, doing it at the start just feels like I would rather they enjoy the content and then click the button, because I feel like making the whole video a Skinner box to try to get people to click the button just to support me is like the content almost becomes less entertainment and more of like a virus. Like I'm not packaging something that is out there to entertain people. Instead, the content is out there to get picked up and propagate as quickly as possible, whether it's as entertaining as something I would otherwise make or otherwise.
Got it. No, and that's interesting to hear, and it's definitely because this past week we talked about it on the back channel, and it stemmed from one of the things Ryan said at the last end of the video. We were talking about Sinvicta and how he was talking about his like numbers, and we're like, all right, let's there's something to this. So my take on it this past week, I was just kind of like buckshotted spread. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna ask beginning, middle, and end. I didn't really have a plan, but like now talking it out with you, I think. So I'd ask beginning, middle, and end. I would just come up with an arbitrary number. I think the first one I asked for like 20 more than the previous video and so forth. And it went really well. But at the same time, I feel like there's no plan. I'm just like randomly asking at different times. But what I think I'm going to do now, and one of the things I executed on, and I think I did it on one video. It hasn't gone live yet. But I had my editor, I'm like, hey, like I have a pop-up now that comes up every 8 minutes. It's just the epic code. So I'm like, hey, do one for likes, but do 4 different like animations and put them in different areas of the screen and do it over 45 minutes. So I think there's 4 small visual asks over 45 minutes, because I'm like you, like when you ask for it, it derails where you're going, right? And it's halting. But what I think, talking to you, what I think I'm going to try this week is not ask at the beginning, but so like I looked at beginning, middle, and end. I'm going to go middle and end, but I'm going to save the middle end. The middle part where, if, like for Spelunky, if something ridiculous happens or an insane play, I'll be like, I think that's how I'm going to try it now and just see what happens.
Yeah. Right after you get the onk,
Yeah.
now that I got the onk, you got to like the video. I see.
But you did talk about, you mentioned something about like gamifying it. Have you thought about like, because in a sense, you're gamifying your subscribers, right? For the challenge videos. But at the same time, there is an inherent payday or reward, which you hit a big one this week, which I want to talk about. But have you thought about how you could do that in a video? And
I think the way that other people do it, the only way I've seen it done is like bonus content if you hit like X amount, which I think is fine. Like I'm on the fence. Normally I know how I feel about something, a little bit mixed. I would feel weird, especially because I keep a backlog. I would feel super weird about being like, I'm not going to release the next episode unless I get like 4,000 likes on this one, because I'm like, I got it. And I could just put it up and I get paid for putting it up.
It's
not
coming
like
out anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why the ask originally felt like there was no consequence behind it. Because I was like, hey, I'd really like 2,200 likes. And then if I get 1,900, I'm like, oh, well, here's part 2, So I think... I think it depends how much you want to gamify it. I like the subscriber milestones right now. I'm comfortable with the amount of like extra content that comes out from that. I think it would take a lot of maintenance to apply like the like stuff for other series. I think honestly, if you put out less videos, it would be easier. Because you could, like, if you're only running like one series and you recorded 10 episodes in advance, you could be like, hey, I'm going to release episode 2 when this episode gets 5,000 likes. And then you just watch it. And if it hits 5,000 likes in like 6 hours, you just put out episode 2. And you go, okay, if episode 2 gets 3,000 likes, I'll put out episode 3. Faster than I would otherwise put it out. But for me, I don't know. It honestly, I think it's too much. I think it's too fiddly, especially because I don't actually know how much likes move the needle for overall content viewership. So like I think everybody on YouTube is on the same page. They obviously move it a little bit when it comes to getting discovered by the algorithm and picked up and put in recommended engines and stuff like that. But if it's not like the only, well, if it's not like the predominant thing, I think structuring the whole, you know, psychology around getting as many as possible could, if not backfire, just annoy you with busy work.
I'm with you on that. Like, to me, I'm like a no friction zone, right? So if you have to do this to get this, I'm with you. I don't like that at all. But you sparked something in an idea that I'm going to do for the next Spelunky video. But before I just do that, do you know, for context, because this whole thing sparked because you talked about one of Sinvicta's video, and I don't expect you know off the top of your head, but do you know roughly what kind of percentage he was getting likes per video? Like, so say he had 10,000 views. Do you know?
I mean, I think we're talking about like maybe like 20%.
Okay.
Which is really high.
And what do you know what he does?
I know he does like I mean, I'll just ask him after the show's over. But I know for Isaac, and someone in chat probably actually, but he does like a like streak in Isaac. And I think like, you know, he sets a goal, and like every day that they cross that number of goals, it gets closer to him doing like a challenge in the game. I don't know if the challenge is like, you know, I'll do 3 victory laps or, you know, whatever, but it's something along those lines, which I think is a very tasteful way of doing it. Is like, hey, I'll throw like a monkey wrench into my normal episodes to add some variety in exchange for like this degree of support.
So it's like bonus content. It's not penalizing people if they don't do it, but it's just something cool and extra. Okay. So, okay, I got it. So here's, and this is like, I think this is cool because we'll probably look back on this episode in, you know, a year from now and be like, oh yeah, remember when we didn't know what we were doing? Or, but for me, you know, like we just don't, because we don't know. We're throwing stuff against the wall. What I think I'm going to do in the next episode I record, just specifically for Spelunky, is not spoiling anything, but I'm only going to use a rare character skin if we hit a certain numbers, because it doesn't like, you know, just something like that where you're getting it anyways. But I think the cool thing about it is creatively thinking now is I'm thinking, okay, how can you incentivize it without penalizing anyone, but also making it worth someone's while so that they actually hit it? And I think it's an interesting thing. But from that, talk to us about your subscriber milestones that you hit.
Which is a good segue, because that was actually going to be my second win of the week, is that we finally, like last Friday, we hit 815,000 subscribers, which I had mentioned in like a month ago's channel update. I was like, we'll be playing some Smash Bros there. So it's a really like, it's a small win in the sense like there's not that much to talk about or learn from it, but it was just fun to play Smash Bros again, and people were super excited about the content. And on the business side, it's an opportunity. It's like a pressure point where you can be like, I really wanted to make sure I brought my A game for the content, because I was like, this is one of the carrots on a stick that is like trying to get more people to subscribe in the future. So anytime you get an opportunity like that, I think it's just exciting to make content that, you know, is a little bit more high stakes than just like, you know, episode 35 of something that people are already interested in. So it's just, it was nice to do it. And it was nice to get some momentum on that as well. And I mean, mostly I was just excited that people liked the video. And I actually, I made like a second episode, and we'll probably make another episode soon before it's over. Just to keep playing a little bit more Smash.
Did you hit it faster, slower, or about as where you thought you hit 815?
It depends on like the frame of reference. There's definitely like slower than I would have thought happened in like January. But then I think it's like I'm settled into a pace right now where like we're moving up. which is good for like 3 or 4 years. We're pretty much just like within like 5,000 subscribers of the same number. You'd like slowly gain 5,000, then YouTube would be like, we're wiping out inactive accounts. And then 5,000 would just get yeeted away immediately, right? So to have it moving in the positive direction is already like a pretty big win for me on a growth level. And subscribers aren't the only numbers. Like one of the nicest comments I've gotten, and it's recurring, is people are like, I kind of fell out of the content for whatever reason, like within the past few years, but I came back because of like, oh, Northernlion tries. It gives me a reason to check the channel every single day. And then like, oh, Golden Goblet is also entertaining. Maybe not every game is my cup of tea, but the ones that I like watch all 7. So I'm like watching more now. And definitely the numbers in the back end for me reflect that. But still, there is like almost like a vanity aspect for me. That's like, I just want to see the number go higher. But I'm more relaxed about it now than I think I was a couple of months ago, where I'm like, I'm putting a lot of pressure on that growth side. Like I'm doing a lot of work to push it, and I don't have complete control over it. I can apply as much work as I possibly can, and if the number moves slow, then the number moves slow. So it's more about like, I guess, learning. Like the milestones are great, and I'm excited to do them, but I'm also patient because everything's already going well. So it's a good place to be, even if I'd like to see the rate of growth go higher for sure.
Well, I think that's the cool thing to see on my end, is that, as a passive, someone who watches your content, to see just the creativeness. It feels like even without the subscriber milestones, like just the creativity you're putting into it is going to draw in new viewers. But on top of that, like, I think people are invested in it. And I think from a back end standpoint, or this side of the camera standpoint, it's like I'm not saying anything that's not already out there, but it's a measure of progression, right? As opposed to just saying like, oh, I hope one day we get to 1 million subscribers. It's like, all right, look, we're climbing the mountain. We just crossed the flag. And so I imagine it's got to feel good, where it's like, okay, hey, look, it's one thing to know you're growing, but to actually set checkpoints along the way that you're hitting, it's, to be honest, like, you just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, well, Daniel, why don't you have milestones? Because you want to hit 100. I'm like, that's a great question. Why don't I? I just feel like, but this kind of comes back to one of the reasons why I love about the podcast. Essentially, it's you and I talking, and I use the term, it's an old football term, like iron sharpens iron. Just by hearing you talk about that, it's like, okay, hey, look, here's some different ideas. Just by you being observant of Sinvicted, it threw something into the the ecosystem here. So it's cool to be around that, and I think a lot of people are probably, what's your net, is 820 or 825 the next one?
820, yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people that give something. It's almost like you did your pentathlon or the Rivals. It's like it gives some people something additional to root for, like a sports team. Like, we got to the playoffs, now can we win a regional game? So I think that's really cool. But I'm writing that down on my execute list for this week.
There's a lot I like about the milestones. Like, one of the things that's actually, I think, is great is like, when I was around like 350,000 subscribers, Rebirth came out, and it was just like, it went through the roof, right? I was getting, I don't know, like maybe like 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers a day for a couple of weeks, which is just
insane,
unfathomable, right? And then you kind of like you're like, oh, well, I did like a subscriber milestone for 400,000, but I'm like, oh, that's not a real milestone. 500,000 is like a real milestone. And having growth slow down obviously is not ideal, even though like subscriber growth is only one measure. And like, obviously video views are actually what brings in, money on the bottom line for us. But like now I'm like, dude, I don't take 5,000. Like every 5,000 being a milestone, that might seem small, but I'm like, that's 5,000 people. I don't take that for granted at all. Whereas like 6 years ago, I definitely would have been like, 405. Oh, and then the next day, wow, 410 already. This is crazy. Now I'm like, I'm fighting for every inch that we're going here. So it means that much more to me, I guess.
No, I think that's cool. But, and I think the other thing, just like through natural whatever, is my numbers are exactly like remove 10. So it's like, it's definitely not a competition on mine, because I think that's one of the ways to not do it, is compare yourself to someone else. But just like, I think I'm at like 81,900, and you're like 815. But in terms of where you got the milestone, did you see that somewhere? What made you institute that?
I think it's just, I get like, it's true for everybody, I think, but I get like bursts of like, almost like anxiety where I'm like, I got to rework this somehow to like try to mix it up because what's working or what's going right now is not working anymore. So I just thought like it's kind of the same thing with the likes. I was like, I would like this number to grow. What can I do without being a scumbag to get the number to go up instead of being like, oh, if I don't get 850,000 subscribers by March, I'm going to cancel Isaac or something. So instead, I'm just like, I just thought about what if I were watching a channel or like if I put myself in my audience's shoes, what would I want? And one of the things I thought is like the stuff there's a lot of games over the years I no longer play that people always ask me to play.
Like
so
what?
If I could just, like Smash is one of them.
Okay.
Doki Doki Literature Club is more of like a meme for sure. And then horror games like Alien Isolation was on the list, but I don't know if I thought that was kind of a shorter thing. I didn't realize it was 20 hours long, but some kind of like horror game I very rarely play. So there's lots of stuff in there that I've never
what
done.
What about Grey's Anatomy? Is that
I
million?
would definitely do it. Yeah. I was talking on the subreddit. I would do Grey's Anatomy over Hollow Knight any day of the week. Especially because I already have 19 CD-ROMs of Grey's Anatomy.
Because I saw one streamer that I really like. His name's Peeve. He plays like exclusively Dark Souls game. I just saw him start up Hollow Knight for the first time, and I'm like, man, maybe I should give it a look. What's your take on Hollow Knight? I know we've talked about this 100 times, but I just feel I don't fully. It hasn't permeated yet. Like, why don't you want to play Hollow Knight?
I feel like my experience with Hollow Knight, for me as a creator, is that the story and the narrative and the context surrounding the game is already so set in stone that there's no way for me to make the content in my own way that puts my own stamp on it without annoying an element of the community that loves it to begin with and doesn't appreciate that it's not being played on the terms that they would want to play it on. And then they get a little sandpapery, and then that rubs off on me, and then I get chafed by the fact that they're getting annoyed, and I'm like, this sucks, and then the whole thing just kind of sucks. But I think that for different creators, it could be different. Like one creator that I think it would work, one creator type I think it would work well for is the kind of people that are just like, I'm just going to sit and mainline a story game, and I'm never going to make a joke, and I'm never going to criticize it at all. And there's a lot of people like that on Twitch, and it sounds like I'm talking down to them, but there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'll sit down and watch somebody play through the new Assassin's Creed game, and just whenever something cool happens, they go, whoa, and like, that's it. So I think, there's a place for that, and that works. That kind of person could play Hollow Knight. And I think you have such a formidable mind fortress for not letting the elements in chat tilt you and like adjusting second to second on the fly to like what you need to do to fit well with chat on that. I think it's possible that it could work well for you as well. In the back end, you might be like, this sucks, but the product on screen, I think would be fine.
And for you, like, because the only thing I can think of in your catalog that you've played that's similar to that is Undertale, right? Like a very, I don't know, whatever you like, rabid fan base that's protective, I guess you would say, over a game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And then did you experience that with Undertale?
No, Undertale went really well, but I just like, first off, the game is amazing. But then the other thing is like, I knew going into it almost what I just said, where I was like, I'm just going to like play it and have fun and like just experience it. And I had a lot of fun doing it that way. The other thing though is like, I mean, Undertale is hard, but like there's two routes you can take thgoing through the game. The route I took is like relatively easy, so you're not dying and getting frustrated too much. But if that happens in Hollow Knight, you're going to get a backseat element as well that rubs some people the wrong way for sure. So I think basically I just played the game without being insulting. I played it in like the most pandering way possible, which was also enjoyable for me because the game is so good. But I never did anything even like slightly controversial in the game at all.
Really?
Yeah, I played it like full light side, like Paragon.
But just because you had the insight, you knew that game was that protected that you're like, all right, look, I don't even want to go down that route, even though like, So is there like because I don't know much about Undertale. I played like maybe an hour of it. Is there like a nice way to play it and a chaotic way to play it?
Yes.
And you didn't play the chaotic way.
Yeah, exactly.
But
the characters are really sensitive, like emotional, and you can just yeet them basically if you wanted to. So I was like, let's not do that. Let's make them happy.
But like to me, that would to watch you play that the chaotic way. I'm like, but you're saying it would just ruffle a lot of feathers. That's in the end isn't worth all the stuff.
In my opinion, yeah.
Okay, no, that's fair.
For me at least. But again, I think there's different genre of creators that might make it work the other way. But I think for me, it would have been like, I think it would have made the environment a lot worse.
Okay. As we wrap up your milestone talk, I do want to. So you have 820. Is it every 5 all the way up?
It's every 5, yeah. But like the 5s are meant to be like pretty small. Like originally, I was like 1 video, but I was like, hey, I like Smash. I'll play like multiple videos. And then the 10s are like small series. So like 820 is a Doki Doki Literature Club playthrough. That's probably going to be like a week's worth of episodes, maybe.
Okay.
And then like the 25, I don't even remember what I had as 25. I got my list here though on a notepad because I'm 100 years old. Just give me, it's not on this page. I've had a lot of ideas recently. 825 is Split or Steal. So that's like another like 1 video jam. But then like 850 is ranking every item in Isaac in the tier list, which is going to be like 6 or 7 hours for 1 video. And people are like, he's not going to do it. I'm like, I'm going to do it.
That's a lot. I mean, that's like a Melf video.
Yeah, it's like
that's a lot of, I mean,
Mario Maker.
It's like 6 to 7 hours, but even the prep for that is going to be another.
It's going to be long, but that's the thing. I'm like, I think that I'm glad to have the opportunity to like put my money where my mouth is, where I'm like, I'm going to promise something big for this. And it's going to, I mean, we might hit 815 and like, I mean, that might not even, or 850, I should say, that might not even happen in 2020. So it depends on whether the Isaac DLC comes out. But
just as
I'm ready to do it. I'm ready and willing. Sure. And it's going to be like a bad day at the, but I think it's going to make for, even if I have no doubt people are not going to watch the whole video with rapt attention, but just seeing the thumbnail and the title, people are going to be like, that's hilarious. And I'm so glad he even thought to do it. And they'll like go through the view bar and be like, he's still talking. There's no point at which he just makes this like a meme. He's actually doing the whole thing.
How far up the chain to 1 million did you plan?
Only up till 850 so far. And
okay.
the reason is like, it's still pretty slow right now. So I don't want to set something in stone that maybe like a year from now, I'm like, things have changed and I don't want to do that, or people don't want to see that.
Have you thought about the possibility? Let's just say that tomorrow the DLC drops and you go to 850 overnight. I mean, it's not out of the realm, or pretty like within it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
It's not. I don't think they would stealth drop it. I think they would at least have like a month backlog. But like, I would still honor the milestones up till 850. If all of a sudden that kickstarts something where I'm gaining like, I don't know, even if I was gaining like 10,000 subscribers a month, I would probably still do 5,000 or 10,000 milestones. But obviously, if we somehow like a miracle happens, we're gaining like 50,000 a month, I'm not going to do 10 subscriber milestones a month in the future. But we would rework it and be like, okay, maybe every 25,000 we're going to do some kind of subscriber milestone or something like that. At some point, like, I think the milestone has to be meaningful. And for a long time, subscriber growth has been so small that a number like 5,000, like intervals of 5,000, is really meaningful. But if you start getting like insane amounts of subscriptions, I think people would just be insulted. They would be like, every day is a subscriber milestone. The whole channel is just celebrating subscriber milestones now.
So, and I'm doing this both because I'm curious, but also to like apply it on the back end. So at 820 is Doki, 825 is Doki.
825 is Split or Steal.
Okay, what's 830?
Planet Zoo.
Why that one?
People really wanted to see Planet Zoo. They like Planet Coaster, but I'm like, I didn't think that I really wanted to play Planet Zoo. But if we hit the number, sure.
All right,
everybody's got their price.
835.
My first ever League of Legends game.
Oh, okay. 840.
Alien Isolation, but that's subject to change right now.
Okay.
A horror game, probably a shorter one.
845.
PlayStation VR.
You have that?
We do. Yeah.
Oh. And then 850 you said is Isaac. Okay.
Every Isaac episode.
Because I was just thinking of like the segmentation of your audience. I'm like, so it's every carrot is completely different. It's not like Isaac this, Isaac that. It's not like Slayer this. Okay. Because I'm just thinking on mine, because 100% I'm going to do something between now and next week to do milestones. But I was just seeing like how to approach it, right? Because I know that, but it's no different. Like I have people that just watch my stuff for Star Citizen or Tarkov or whatever. So it's interesting to even begin, when you began to plan that, you just went off of the feedback you've gotten over the years of what you think people want to see.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote down like a list of like a bunch of stuff, and then I prioritized it by like what would take forever, I separated into like short-term, medium-term, long-term. And then I was like, well, the short stuff, put it early and put the best stuff earliest. And then for the medium stuff, those will be like slightly rarer. And then the truly heavy stuff is ridiculous. Like I got other stuff on here. Like I got an Undertale genocide run on here, which is like, that's probably like a 12 to 20 hour thing. So that's, if we're doing that, that's going to be like a 50 or 100,000. I got, people have always asked for My Summer Car. That's on here.
What is that? That's not a car simulator. It's something disguised as a car simulator.
It's like a life simulator, but you're trying to build a car throughout it as well. But you also have to make sure your kidneys don't explode from alcohol consumption. And yeah. Okay. Like I'm not going to go through all of them, obviously, but like a Sims 4 playthrough, Grey's Anatomy revisit, a cooking video, stuff, ranking my own series, every series I've ever done, putting those into a tier list. So there's stuff like that it's on the cooker to come out eventually. Yeah,
cool. All right, so pivoting from milestones to my L's of the week, which you brought up one that made me think about it, because I'm like, you have a lot of L's throughout the week. You're like, okay, which ones you want to talk about? I'll talk about a short one and a long one. So you talked about like this protection over a game, right? So like Undertale or Hollow Knight. And for whatever reason, it's the only time I've really experienced it on the Twitch show is during Demon.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Really, I was gonna guess Banner Lord. So
no. Demon Souls. There was, for the first time ever, there was like a lot of fervor. Like I do something on the show called Backseating, and we, I just let the chat guide the show, because to me, I just want to make the show they want to watch. So typically, what happens is they'll say, "Hey, like here's something in this way," and we'll kind of work towards it. Or like if it doesn't happen right away, it's cool. So there's a moment where like there's this elevator and people are like, you need to go back. There's a hidden vendor down there. But it was not violent. I'm gonna be a little dramatic, but like fervent, like all caps, elevator, go back, go get the guy. And in my head, I'm like, I didn't say anything because I'm like, okay, it's getting close to the end of the wrap the show. I'm gonna swing back and I'm gonna end the show doing that, like going back, and like gave me like a segmentation point. So this is all going on, but I'm not saying it, but the fervor is still coming. And so it's like the first time I've really had to deal with that, because for the most part, like the community is amazing. Like people kind of get the flow of the show. The community, it polices itself, and the mods have done such a great job. But it was just like, for whatever reason, that's the first time like I was experiencing it, not to the point where I got like salty or triggered, but it's the point where I'm like, all right, I want to address this because it's so early in the playthrough. I just don't want this to continue happening, because I just saw like some people were like, it was starting to like bicker a little bit. Like, hey, some people were like, hey, let it just chill, let them play it. So for me, it didn't bother me, but I just don't want it to affect the community. So I'm like, okay, this is just a small issue, and I didn't want it to bloom. So I kind of, at the end of the show, I think I might have did it right in the middle. I'm like, hey, look, like whatever you guys want to see, we're gonna do, but like there's a certain way we do things around here, and I don't want you to stop like front seating and doing that stuff. But if I don't do it right away, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. I'm just trying to get there. But I've never, and I don't know, maybe it's a product of, kind of growing a little bit, but to me, it's just like trying to, when you see a problem, I guess it's like inverted to tie back to your tech problem. Like I started to see a problem and I'm like, man, do I really want to call this out? Because to me, whenever I call someone out, I don't want to call out someone and alienate them, because that makes that person feel bad, and it just puts a lot more attention on the problem. But I'm like, you know what? it just felt like the right thing to do. So I try to like just smooth it over. But I don't know. It was just something I wasn't used to dealing with. And in the moment, I'm just like, just kind of follow your gut and do it. Have you had to do anything like that recently, or you're pretty much hands off? Or
It's hard because, like, I mean, it happens in all the Souls games, in my experience, for sure. Like in Dark Souls 3, the number of times I've like killed an enemy and then walked away from them, and then Chad is just loot, 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 missed item, blind, 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 loot, loot, loot. And then I go back and it's like a small Titanite shard or something like that. And I'm like, I'm really glad we all spend 45 seconds to do that. That's really added like a lot of entertainment to play through. So like that it happens in those games and games of those sorts for sure. But it's hard for me because I think that like sometimes when you address it, you got to do it in the right way. Otherwise, it can kind of like kickstart a cycle of like, now you're not even like talking about the game. Now you're like talking about the community reaction to the game. And then chat becomes like talking about your reaction to what they were saying in the first place. And, you know, you can get like, you know, I don't want to, again, call out a group of people specifically or in general even, but like, you know, people, they make like bad faith arguments that are like, well, if you weren't blind, you wouldn't need us to shout that stuff in chat. Or like, well, if the streamer never made a mistake, then you wouldn't blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just trying to help you, but I guess my advice is not needed here. So I'll just go never come back or something like, and you're like, that's why I've talked like in the past on the show that I feel like on Twitch, on YouTube is a little different just due to the consumption, I think, because like nothing penetrates the creator bubble because the video is already made. But on Twitch, sometimes I'm like, I gotta trick some of these guys into being entertained. You gotta play well enough that they don't find something that takes them out of the commentary where they're like, he missed a useless key over there. But then at the same time, you'd like keep that going for like half an hour and they'll be like, oh crap, I just realized I'm having fun, instead of telling the streamer what to do.
Well, so, and this kind of ties into something else that just popped up because I saw what's going on in chat, is that, so like we've been growing a little bit, and so I got, you know, some emotes to fill, and one of the requested emotes is potato. Like, you know, when I miss a bunch of shots, and in my head I'm like, yeah, that'd be funny, but it's also like a little, there's like a negative slant on it, right? So
Yeah.
So, and with that being said, when you're talking about that, there was like a wave of lying blind in the chat,
Yeah.
which is your emote of, you know, you not seeing something. Have you thought about changing that, or the creation of it? Like, because I'm like extremely, not that I wasn't before, but thinking about, okay, hey, look, if I put an emote in, what is this going to represent, and how is it going to affect the community and the flow of the show?
Yeah.
Do you think about that at all?
I do now for sure. Like we're probably within the next month, I'll hit a milestone on Twitch that'll open up some more emote slots. And like I should go back at some point and like refactor my emotes, because they got like, I don't know, like 49, and some of them I'm like, those are top tier, they should not be there anymore. I don't need a God of War emote, that's just insane, right? But you know, I also defensively in advance, I'm like, I'm really busy. Like all the time. And then there's other stuff you can do that is more immediately meaningful to your being like, I got to eat this Kratos emote and then commission an artist and then, you know, get it uploaded and blah, blah, blah. But I should do it. There's at least like 10 emotes that I would not mind getting rid of or should be gotten rid of ASAP. Lion Blind is probably in the second tier. That's like, if I get a lot of good ideas, that one's probably gone, because it's never used in a way that's not annoying, which is my fault. Because if I'd ever thought about what I did is I worked backwards, or I worked forwards instead of backwards, which is I went, hey, it's a joke that I'm blind. Let's make an emote about it so they have something to spam when I'm blind. If I'd worked backwards and thought, when am I going to see this emote? Oh, exclusively when I'm already mad. Then I wouldn't have created a symbol that triggers my anger so quickly. It was a dumb idea. Now it's kind of funny as well, but at the same time, in hindsight, I'm like, I should not have put that emote out there. It enables a certain amount of toxicity. And I'll tell you what's even more here is that there's like, between that emote and then the meme in Heavy Rain where I couldn't find the door that I'm supposed to go into is called Green Door. Now, whenever I miss something, instead of chat being like, you missed this, it's just lion blind emote and green door spam. So it makes it even harder to figure out what I'm missing because I don't know what I'm missing or where it is because everybody's just saying green door and the lion blind over it.
I'm with you where it's like, I'm with you where it's like, you know, you could spend your time like making stuff and stuff like that. And then, you know, there's stuff like emotes. But for me, like, I'm just like with this potato stuff, I'm like, I'm not completely shutting it down, but there's gotta be, I think you walk a fine line, right? And it's, I mean, we're talking about like an emote, and to me, it's like, it's something that's going to be used a lot. So it's important. But, you know, if you look at it on a macro level, you know, how important is it? I don't know. I think there's some importance to it where I'm trying to be thoughtful about it. But I think at the same time, though, there's like not being too positive, but also not being self-aware, right? So, you know, the fact that you put the lion blind emote in there, it's like, all right, hey, you can laugh at yourself. But like, how far does that go before it negatively affects the show?
I've laughed at my same joke for like 4 years now, and I'm like, I'm just over.
So is there any other ones on your two like that are like top tier just to like you can't wait to put them on the chopping block and get rid of them?
Not really. There's just some where I'm like, they were inside jokes in 2014, and it's like, it's a long time ago. So I think but I'm also like, dude, it's hard to fill, like, this is an ultimate complaint, but it's hard to fill 50 emotes with meaningful stuff. Is like, even on Twitch, when I'm in other people's chats, I use 10 emotes maximum. That covers the whole range of human emotions. I really just use lol, debated, and like Monka S. That's and PogChamp or Poggers. That's all you need. There's only 4 emotes. There's like, I'm laughing. You said something kind of stupid, but that's okay. I'm scared. And then that's amazing. Whatever just happened there is amazing. That's the only 4 emotions you need.
I mean, that's pretty accurate. You know, when I went, I feel like some of the best emotes on my channel are some of the most recent ones because I just did that. I actually went to like twitchemotes.com or whatever. And I'm like, hey, what are the most used globally? And I'm like, hey, can I put a spin on them so they're, you know, custom to our community? I will say I did see the worst emote on Twitch go by, Resident Sleeper. I just,
oh yeah.
But anyway, so let me pivot from emotes and then to my other L of the week. Is one of the things I do on the show is at the end of the week, people that gift out subs, we open up a pack in their honor, and I love it, I enjoy it. But with like the growth, you know, after Friday, I'm sitting there opening up packs for like 90 minutes, hour, and almost 2 hours, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, look, I'm running out of steam. There's no way this is still entertaining, even though I'm like, I'm still excited to pull, you know, open up cards. Like, I love it, but it's kind of like what you said with YouTube. It's like, all right, hey, you're stagnant. And to me, anytime I'm stagnant, I'm like, all right, let's blow it up or try to figure out something different. But it just kind of hit me, and it's been kind of almost like your technical issue. It's like, all right, it's been a couple weeks now where it's like, it's a lot of packs to open. And number one, I'm super grateful that that's going on. But also, it's to me, it's a signal. It was a signal that, all right, if I'm feeling this way, like this is a really long time to open up dopamine on the show, I can't be the only one. So that was like, I mean, it's not an L because it's just a sign of like things going really well. But what it caused me to do is like kind of rework the macroeconomics of it, where like the numbers kind of all work out the same. Like that because like when you buy packs, they cost money. And so like that number hasn't changed, but what I'm doing instead of, I don't think I sent you a message with the bottom line. Don't share it.
I saw the invoice.
I sent him the invoice. Don't share anything about it. But what I'm doing now is instead of opening like, so for example, right now, I think there's like 150 packs to open. I'm taking the money. Instead of opening up 150 packs, we may open like 10 packs, but the cost of those packs are the same as the 150. So way less packs, but every pack we open, it's like, I mean, your eyeballs are popping out of your head because these are like very expensive pieces of cardboard. So I think it'll increase the excitement. I mean, I know I'm going to be like sweating opening on them, but I think it's like, to me, what I took from it is that if anything, as I've been going along, if anything feels stagnant or it's like, all right, hey, look, it's time to change something up, like listen to yourself and do it. And then, because part of me like changing it is like, I don't want to, say, hey, here's what we've been doing and then take that away. I feel like that's one of the things that I just don't like. I don't like taking something away from someone that they enjoy or they already do. But at the same time, I'm trying to find a way to maybe not take something away, but present something better. So I don't know. Have you ever had something where you've had to like change something that you thought people liked, but for you or the production of your show or your time, you're like, it's not working, but here's something I think is going to be better?
Yeah, I mean, when you were mentioning the pack stuff, obviously this is a much smaller scale, but twice over the course of Twitch in particular, and it was a natural evolution. So when we first started Twitch, anytime anybody subscribed, we interrupted our conversation to say like immediately thank you for the subscription, which led to these really weird conversations where you'd be like having a conversation with somebody and you'd be like, I was at the restaurant, thank you Brownie Plus for the subscription. So I was at the restaurant the other day, and like it takes like an hour to tell like a 5-minute story, but you think like that's what I want to do because I don't want people to feel like they subscribed and I don't care. I think that especially when streamers start out, they have a chip on their shoulder that's like, I want everybody to know that I appreciate like that. I mean, I think implicitly like a lot of streamers think people are paying $5 to have their name get read. And there's obviously like some element of that is like, you want the person is subscribing or giving gift subs in particular, because maybe they want a little, maybe not that they want attention like from the streamer, but they want like,
like a lady.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing because when I subscribe to people that I like, I'm waiting for them to say my name. That's why I'm laughing. I'm like, all right, like here's what's can you just say like, but sorry, go ahead.
No, I hear you, but I'm like the opposite. Like I had my resub in your chat today, but I was like, I'm not gonna send it. He's playing the game right now. I don't want to just interject that in chat and then be like, say it. It's anyway. But so like then eventually I was like, this sucks, and like I don't want to just be a guy that's like a billboard that's like, if you pay me $5, I'll interrupt whatever I'm doing and like jump up and down or something like that. So then I moved all the subscriber thank yous to the end, and there's an element of that sucks. Like it's very easy to come up with the negatives. What if you subscribe? You live in Sweden. You subscribed at 1 a.m. your time. The show ends at 4 a.m. your time. You're gonna stay awake just for 2 seconds where I mispronounce your name. It's like a bad idea, right? But I was like, for the quality of the show, it's a good idea. And then I'd hit almost like your exact pack situation where I was like, at the end of every show, I was reading subscriber names. And sometimes it was like, a minute, and that was fine. Sometimes it was like 10 to 15 minutes of just reading an endless string of usernames that has no meaning for anybody. It's like a credit sequence where you're just waiting to like see your own name. And sometimes I was like, this is fun. And a lot of times I was like, I'm zonked. Like I'm already out of energy at the end of the show. And I know, but like what percentage of people is actually getting enjoyment out of this is like only the pool of people that really subscribed that day. Plus like for 95% of reading it, you're not interested. You're just like, my name's here. And then you go, he said it. And then you're like done. So I think like, it made at the end of it, I was feeling similar to how you're feeling about the packs, except I think the packs at least have some excitement because it's like a slot machine. I mean, I got hockey cards right here, but yeah, it's a slot machine where you're like, you could be a little bit, like underpogged, but at the same time, if you pull like, some kind of incredible card, you're like, that's amazing. And now I'm back. Whereas reading the names, you're just like, I just want this list to end. So I just said, you know what? I think we're going to like for outrageous shows of support, we'll say thank you for sure. To just be like, I acknowledge it. But then like, apart from that, we're just going to focus on like the quality of the show. Cause I really like, I don't want to produce the best quality of show for subscribers. I want to produce the best quality of show for everybody. And I think that everything else like flows from that. I definitely think it's in the same way that we've talked about like incentivizing likes on YouTube. I think you could structure your whole Twitch show to push subscriptions, text to speech, writing people's names on a whiteboard behind you or whatever, outrageous, over the top reactions to every show of support. And then I think at some point you've created a situation where you are now like a salesperson for selling subscriptions to Twitch rather than making entertainment. And that's, I mean, I do have a problem with that, and I would never do it myself, but I understand for some people it's just kind of the hustle. For me, I and I think for you as well, appreciate it more as a platform of entertainment where if you make the best quality product possible, support will flow from that, hopefully without you having to resort to any tactics like that.
Say my name. So what do you do now? Do you still read people at the end of the show, or what? You don't do nothing?
Not at all. But like the on-screen pop-ups are way better. So like they do get recognized on the stream. And then for gift subs, you know, I'll throw out like a thank you for the gift subs, or a hat tip or a thumbs up. If somebody else is talking, I understand that what people like. I'm trying to think of like the polite way to say it, but even like, I don't know. Part of it is that I'm on the other side. Part of it maybe is that I guess I'm a little older than some of the demographics on Twitch. But even like when I'll watch another streamer and like they'll be in a conversation with somebody, and then someone will subscribe, they'll mute themselves in the Discord conversation and be like, hey, you know, Turbo Team 6, thanks for the subscription. And I'm like, it's nice to say, but it's not, there's no like meaning. You're not actually like, thank you for this. You're not thanking them. Instead, it's more like, you know, this is just the signal that you sent me something, so then I give you this in return. Like it's all formality instead of actually having like in a meaning and like genuinity behind it. So in a way, I've kind of like radicalized myself and come out the other side where I'm like, not thanking people for every subscription is like less transactional than thanking them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think like we're probably at different ends of the spectrum, because like when I gotta get out of my head like when you say my name, but because I'm still laughing at that. But I think it's like a progression, right? So when you first start streaming, you know, it's not something that happens that often. You know, just be like you don't get a ton, but you know, you don't necessarily think about later down the road, and I've been thinking about that a lot too, and I brought it up about like even the alerts that pop up, like it can be distracting and stuff like that, but at the same time when someone does that, like I genuinely, it's not like I'm like it's not like I'm transacting them. It's like I really appreciate it, but I think what I'm trying, like I don't have the cadence yet, I don't understand how to do it yet, but what I've been moving towards a little bit is in between Tarkov runs. Like I try to do it there because there's a natural downtime in between segments of Demon Souls. But part of me too is when I'm doing it, I'm thinking of like myself on the other end. When I sub, I'm like, I want to hear my name read. So it's like, I honestly don't want to like disappoint the person because I know what it's like on the other side. But at the same time, like there's times when I subscribe to someone that I may like and they don't say it, but it doesn't really affect.
And you're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm never coming back here.
No, but that doesn't affect me. Like I'm still going to watch them because I like what they do. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation when in terms of like, did something happen for you? Like enough's enough, where because it
was just tedious
but
at some point.
And I want to preface this whole conversation in saying like it's a great position to be in. It's super grateful, but at the same time, it's, you know, if things keep going how they are and you're at this point, it's like you spend a lot of the time like reading that stuff out and not making the show. So I don't know. And I feel like you're taking something away, but I guess if you take something away, you better put something that's even better in return. Have you ever, so you went from reading them out to only reading them at the end of the show to not even reading them at all?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Do you have a
So I think that it is a little scary too. You're like, everything here is like we're dealing with incomplete information. You know, we don't know how likes affect the algorithm. We don't know what percentage of people on Twitch subscribe just to have their name read versus like, you know, what percentage of people are around to just to watch the content. Right. So like, it's a little scary because you're like, well, you know, maybe I'll do this and my subscriber count will drop by like a third or a half or something like that. But I was like, I'm willing to give it a try just to save my own sanity, because it is a privilege, like you said, to like, if you're getting like 2 subscribers an hour, I think you should shout them out right there. Not just to be like, incentivizing people to subscribe, but to be like, you know, we're at a level where that level of support essentially is what's keeping me going. It would be dishonest of me to, like, for an individual subscription to be like, thanks for your support, you made the channel what it is today. Like, it's just not at that level anymore, which is not to say that I don't appreciate it, but I think you have to change things. Like, I think of it like every YouTuber, when they get started, they're like, big YouTuber is out of touch. If I become a YouTuber, I'm going to respond to every single comment. And it's really great when you get like less than 50 comments a day. That's like less than an hour of your work. But then if you blow up and all of a sudden you're getting 1,500 comments a day, and half of the people that are leaving comments are just leaving because of the fact that they know that you reply to every comment, all of a sudden you're putting the ancillary stuff to the forefront. You're spending so much time daily doing the thing that you said you were going to do that no longer makes sense when you're at scale. It's like Coca-Cola writing like a handwritten letter to every convenience store that they ship bottles to. Like, it might sound callous, but at some point it's just like, it's not possible without literally becoming the content for the streamer. And you know, we've talked about it before. There's streamers who are like huge, where when I tune into their stream for like 20 minutes and I'm like, what's going on here? It's like literally just brain off, without being rude, reading donation messages that are like, you know, Tim the Toolman Gamer gave $10 and said, what's your favorite pizza? John 75 gave $25 and said, thanks, man, you helped me through. So like, they're not even answering the question that the person donated for. They're just like, I have to give them the token attention for having gotten the donation in the first place. So I think I think that you can handle it different ways for sure. But the way I prefer to do it is to focus as much on the content as possible and let people know, like, hey, like, if you're subscribing to get your name in lights and red, that's fine, but you're not going to get it here. So like, I hope you'll still hang out, and maybe there's probably like, it wouldn't surprise me if there's triple digit number of people that are like, I watch NL, but I use my Prime sub on somebody who's going to say my name. Because even though maybe I enjoy NL's content as much or maybe even more than the other person, but I know if I go to, you know, Bartleby's chat, Bartleby is going to act like the subscription's a bigger deal. It means more to Bartleby, so I'm going to give it to him. And I've accepted that that's the cost of doing what I do. So, or doing it the way that I do it, and I'm okay with that.
So you think, if you had to guess, you think it has affected your bottom line of subscribers by not saying in there?
Yes. But I think that everything we do affects the bottom line. Like, I think by not having an over-the-top show for every subscriber, that affects your bottom line in the short term. Like we were talking about earlier, I think you could structure content to be kind of a scumbag, and it would propel your numbers like hugely for a bit. But then like over time, you would probably, like, as people naturally filter out of your content, I think less people come in because they're like, I don't even know what I'm watching. Like, it's not entertaining. It's just somebody reading names and doing jumping jacks over and over.
So I do want to poll the live audience. This is a segment of our audience. Why in chat? Like, this is no memes aside. This is hard data. Like, please give us your honest.
In some ways, I suppose.
Like, please give us your honest answer. Like, no memes. Like, it would mean a lot to us, to me on the show at least. Why in chat if you subscribe and prefer to have your name read, and in chat if you're like no or you don't care. I just want to see what the audience pulls down to. And while we go from doing that, we'll take a few questions from the audience as we wrap up stuff here. This is for a couple from last week as the Y's and N's are coming in. This one is from, okay, this is a good one. This is from Insert Irony. It says, I'm a fan of low viewer count streams that does great music content. How, as viewers, do you think we can help build the community? What do you think about that, Ryan?
That's tough. It's tough for me in particular because everything that I do is filtered through language and voice. So I honestly, like, in terms of the question is essentially, if I get it right, like how can I attract more people to a stream that is music focused and small as is? I think
really what they're asking is, as a viewer, say that they love NL. How can they help bring in more people to the community? Or how would you tell them that you'd be comfortable with them doing that?
Honestly, I think at a small size, this might sound unexpected, but I think the best thing you can do is just make the chat environment as hospitable as possible. Like, I think that what you might expect people to say is like, do the marketing for the streamer, like make clips. Obvious. I mean, I benefit secondhand from people making the clips for me. That probably like for my workflow makes it possible for me to make those highlights as often as I do.
Real quick, and if you make clips, use great titles that say streamer pogged out of his mind on a 5 ace. I'm just not like, I'm joking, but I'm not really. Like if there's a pog moment and there's a bunch of clips, I always pick the one with the best title to share because selfishly it's like the best YouTube thumbnail title. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think like the obvious like simple answer is like market for them. But I think that that's kind of weird. Whenever people like, sometimes they'll be like, tell your friends about this thing. I'm like, I don't gotta tell my friends that listen to this. I have like normal friends. I'm not gonna be like, wow, you should really check out this amazing video where a guy loses in 2K and smashes his controller on his desk. That's they're gonna be like, what's wrong with you? You're like gonna with like real responsibilities.
I have to cut you off because I'm the person that tells me. I told Ryan about a 2K YouTuber or 2K Twitch person I watch, and I talked to my buddy lives in California, watches no Twitch. I'm like, hey, look, I know he loves Dark Souls. I'm like, dude, you got to watch this guy, Happy Hob. Like, he'll play through Dark Souls, he won't get hit, but he'll be 10 hours into the run and he'll get hit by a stray arrow and it's incredible. But like, I don't know. So I think we're deferring opinions, but go ahead and finish your answer and then I'll give mine.
Well, I think like just to put a bow on it, I think making the chat environment at a best thing you can do because you're just enjoying the stream. And then like when people come in, like engage them in conversation. Admittedly, I don't watch a lot of small streams, but when I have in the past, it seems like what keeps people coming back to the stream is they're like, sure, whatever the content is on the stream is like the primary or secondary reason I'm here. But the other reason I'm here is because every night I come here and these are the people that I hang out with. And I know like, oh, John just had a job interview. Let's see how that goes. Or like, Tim just had like leg surgery. Let's see how he's doing. So I think that making the chat environment like hospitable in that sense is probably the best thing you can do. Apart from that, I don't really know what you can do. Because I feel like anytime you make like clips, unless the clip is 10 out of 10, people are like, this is an ad and it's spammy. And I don't know how much growth you actually get from just posting like a clip to begin with, especially if it doesn't go viral. So I think instead, just encouraging the people that actually find the stream to come back is probably the best.
And I can only speak on my end. I think I've had one clip kind of go viral just because it got posted on live stream fails, but I didn't ever like, no one came in the chat and be like, oh, hey, you're the guy that misused the soundboard and didn't bleep out the F word. Like it's not like, but have you ever had that? Like someone's like, oh, I saw your Twitch clip on wherever and this brought me to your show. Yeah.
No, I think it usually like, at least my experience with live stream fail is I'm not going to say that people don't blow up because of live stream fails, but I think it's a different kind of audience than the one that we cultivate. It's more people that are like waiting for something bad to happen so they can be like, ha. But instead, like when a clip of mine or like one of my most popular clip of all time is actually a clip of Rob drawing on the stream, and it's called like streamer is great at drawing or something like that. And when it got posted on live stream fails, which is why it has so many views to begin with, people were just like, I like these guys, but I've never had anybody be like, yo, I saw the drawing on stream fails.
All right. Next one. This is from Jarn00. Says, can we get an update? Can we get a follow-up update from Ryan on his chat mod situation?
I have done nothing. So as with premieres, I said I'm gonna do this, and then I didn't do it immediately. Streamed for 7 hours, fell asleep, and then it exited my mind. So I got.
All right. And then last question, we can both answer this one. It says, this is interesting. This is from Ailey, and it says, how do you get better at bantering solo and in groups? I'm guessing like in a live streaming format.
Yeah, I have no idea. I am like grateful every day that for some reason it's just a skill that I have. I'm sure it came with practice, but I have no idea where it came from. is basically what it comes down to.
I think that's a tough question to ask Ryan, because I'll say this for him. Ryan's very smart, which allows him to be very witty, which allows him to be very funny. And in my travels of life, there's very few people that I've been around that have that. And another, I mentioned him earlier today, my buddy in California, who's a comedian. He's smart in that way. When you're around that person, that's just how they are. So I think that's really hard to give tactical advice on your end, but I'm not gassing you up. I'm just telling you the truth. On my end, I'm not wired that way, right? Like I don't think I'm naturally funny. So what has helped me kind of develop is I just ask a lot of questions. And more importantly than that, because people are like, oh, Dan, all you do is pelt people with questions. No, what I do is I ask a question and then I listen. And a lot of the times, if you're around someone like Ryan, or to that degree, there's like a gold mine coming out where you can just be like, oh, well, what happened here? Why? What do you mean you threw wheat thins at your teacher? How did that, like, there's so much.
It wasn't at the teacher.
Go get him. But I think so my best tactical advice is ask questions to either your chat or to whoever you're in a group with. And then don't just ask a question to ask. Like, when I ask a question, I'm waiting for, I'm mining, but I listen for, like, when Melv talks about, hey, like, this pepper plant made my face explode. Oh, really? Did you try giving it to your brother? Or what? Like, just listen. It's not just asking. It's really the hard part is just actively listening. And sometimes it can be hard because there's days when people won't give you the gold. So either you got to press on the gas or, to me, that's how I've been able to navigate as someone who doesn't have necessarily that wit. And I think at the end of the day, you have to find out. And I don't know if you can speak to this, Ryan, but I found out the more I can it sounds corny, but the more I could, like, just be myself and be who I truly am, which is, like, super goofy. Because I held that down a lot just because I wasn't comfortable. I think whatever that is inside of you, that's whether you love plants or you dress in fursuits or you program or whatever, like, let that out. And then that's what will make people be drawn to you, or you'll be able to be more, it'll give you a unique hinge that people can understand and kind of get to know you. That's my take on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the overarching tip that I was going to say is, like, just don't stop talking and eventually you'll get better at it. But I think that what you said ties into that even for me as well, which is you can talk a lot better and more often if you don't have to think so hard about what you're going to talk about. So if you're just being true to your authentic self in that sense and sincere.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, like, I don't know, especially with other people, like for a tactical piece of advice, I guess, I always try to, like, the first, like, probing questions are always me trying to find a way to expand whatever the bit is. So if I ask, like, hey, what do you prefer? Soft shell or hard shell tacos? I don't really want to know what you prefer, although there's something you can, like, pick at there. We're going to take it one step further and be like, do you think, crunchy foods are overrated in today's world? And then we can, because it's just, like, inherently, like, the way I kind of conceptualize those conversations is that it's like a playground where there's almost, like, no consequences for what you're talking. You're not talking about anything real. Instead, what you've done is you're like, okay, here's the arena that we're talking in today. The arena is, are crunchy foods overrated? And we can play around in there and try some wacky stuff and see what works and what doesn't. So I think, like, anytime you get the opportunity, I like, listening is important because you can find those pressure points where you can be like, okay, not only did he say, like, he prefers soft tacos, but he likes hard tacos for some reason when the cheese is not melted. And then you can go, like, okay, you ever, like, buy a bag of shredded cheese and just, like, shove some of the cheese into your mouth and then see if they're willing to kind of vibe with you on that one for a minute? And then you can just follow it. Like, it's about revealing whether, like, genuinely or artificially, like, little pieces of the personality that were kind of hidden in the first place. And then I think everybody has fun with that.
Yeah, no, and I think to just build off that one step further, Ryan talks about, like, playing an arena. What also helps tactically on my end is, don't someone like, hey, do you like hard shell tacos? No, it's like, do you prefer hard shells or soft shell, and why? Like, don't ask a yes, no, right? Because it's like, hey, do you like Pokemon? Yeah. Okay, crickets. Like, what's your favorite? You make the person, I don't want to say make the person, but, like, so for example, for chat, I could say, do you like Pokemon? Y or N? Yeah. what's your favorite Pokemon? All of a sudden, there's going to be a thread of Snorlax is their greatest because he's a resident sleeper. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, if you avoid yes, no, then all of a sudden the arena, as Ryan talks about, gets a little wider. But, dude, this is officially, we said this last week. This is officially,
it's just going to get longer.
Yeah, this is officially the longest podcast we've done so far. And I don't know about you. I'm just gonna say this. I think this is the least prep I've ever done for a podcast. Yeah.
I opened up the Google sheet for I typed 3 cells into the Google sheet.
3 cells, 9 words. Yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, you can check out the video format at youtube.com/northernlion or go to checkthewire.com. The audio comes out Tuesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Google Podcasts, iTunes. And thank you guys so much for tuning in on the live end. And as we end things here, Ryan, we got something going on, right?